So the Durand Line on fire is Pakistan's worst nightmare. The Afghans do not either accept or respect the Durand Line. There is also a viral video of Taliban tearing down the fence that was put up by the Pakistan Army along multiple points along this 2,640-kilometer long Durand Line. But what does this current round of Afghanistan-Pakistan tension indicate? Joining me on India First is Tilak Deveshar, one of the finest voices on the subject, a member of the National Security Advisory Board, a former top official with the Research and Analysis Wing. He's authored several books on Pakistan. Mr. Deveshar, as always, a privilege to have you on the show, sir. What do you make of TTP attacking villages and military posts in Chitral and taking over several villages in Pakistan, removing the Pakistan Army? The Pakistan Army appears to be retreating. What does this indicate, sir?
First of all, Gaurav, thank you so much for having me on your show. And it's nice to be talking about a subject that I'm deeply interested in. You see, since August 2021, when the Taliban retook Kabul, the TTP has been on the upswing for several reasons. You know, many of the prisoners which were released by the Taliban, including top leaders, they have got ideological support, as well as, you know, they have now a sanctuary inside Afghanistan. So the TTP has rejuvenated it and reorganized itself, and now is in a position to really hit back at Pakistan. One of the Pakistani think tanks recently published a report that there has been an 80% increase in the levels of violence in these 6 months as compared to the previous 6 months. And not only that, the TTPs has been attacking in KPK and in the form of FATA, also in northern Balochistan, which is a Pashtun area. They have set up branches even in the Baloch area, Kalat and Makran, in Gilgit-Baltistan, and also they've set up two provinces or wilayas in Punjab, North Punjab and South Punjab. So the TTP is expanding its footprint all over Pakistan. The latest attacks in Chitral was something that took Pakistan by surprise, because this area has been pretty peaceful, but it, you know, abuts very critical areas in Afghanistan, Kunar, Nuristan,
Yes,
Badakhshan, and where the TTP found it easy to ingress into and attack this place. Now, the interesting thing about this is also that they could have been joined by local Taliban fighters who seem to be quite bored of peace. You see, they've been trained to fight.
Yes.
And because there has been peace in Afghanistan, they are now manning checkposts or in the police service. But they would rather go out and fight jihad, you know. So they may have also joined the TTP. That's why you find the severity of these attacks going up, and Pakistan is faced with a tough situation.
It indeed is, but you know, these images that we are seeing every day, quite in stark in contrast with Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid sipping coffee at the Serena Hotel in Kabul when Taliban took over. And you'd recall, sir, Imran Khan making those tall claims about shackles of slavery being overthrown. So why this major disconnect between, and I want our producers to show those images of General Faiz Hamid sipping coffee at Serena Hotel and the images of today, sir.
Yeah. So, you know, the reason is that the Taliban have never, in fact, no Afghan government after 1949 has accepted the Durand Line as being the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And there's a long background to it. I won't go into it right now. But that's the fact. So even Taliban 1.0 in the 90s, on 3 occasions, refused to accept the international status of the Durand Line. And here also now, they don't accept it. In fact, Taliban now who are in government, they said, this is a line that divides brothers. It's an unresolved issue. We do not accept it. So the basic trouble starts from that. And Pakistan is very keen to get the Taliban to accept the international validity of the Durand Line so that, you know, they can take care of this area. But the Taliban refused to do so. And while they are indebted to Pakistan for having supported them for 20 years, they are an independent power and an independent sovereign country. They are not going to be pushed over. They haven't been pushed over by the British or by the Soviets or by the United States. They're not going to be pushed around by Pakistan. And they made it very clear to Pakistan that, look, this is an unresolved issue. We need to resolve it. And we cannot allow you to fence this anymore. Whatever fencing has been done has been done. We will not allow you to fence this anymore. And with the TTP, they have very deep links. Because when the US attacked Afghanistan in 2001, the Taliban took shelter and sanctuary in the erstwhile FATA where the tribesmen who gave them shelter and fought with them are today organized under the TTP. So as per the norms of the Pashtun Wali, the TTP, the Taliban today, because the TTP requires shelter, will provide them shelter and sanctuary and will not take any action against them. So they told Pakistan that we can facilitate talks, but you talk to them, it is your problem. You and your ulama sort out this issue, don't involve us in this. But we cannot take action against the TTP.
Is this Pakistan's worst nightmare? The AFPAC border in flames, the Pashtun movement coming up, and if the AFPAC border, 2,640 odd kilometers in flames, what would this mean for Pakistan, sir?
It is a very serious situation for Pakistan. You see, because on the one hand, the Taliban have not accepted the Durand line as an international border. So they are directly challenging Pakistan's territorial integrity and sovereignty. The TTP on this side of the Durand line want the Pakistan army to move their military camps out of the area. They want the demerger of FATA with KPK, and they want to have their own system of governance and Sharia in these areas. So now, if the two were to link up in a stronger manner, and Pakistan does not handle this issue imaginatively, there is a potential Pashtun pincer on both sides of the Durand line, which can rejuvenate the old idea of a larger Pashtun entity called Pashtunistan over a period of time. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but over a period of time. So Pakistan needs to handle this very, very imaginatively. And yes, this will be Pakistan's worst nightmare because the Pashtuns are a critical mass of population. They are in a
Go on, sir. A critical mass of population that Pakistan has subjugated. And if we were to talk about this greater Pashtunistan, don't they claim territory all the way up to Peshawar? Peshawar was their capital, illegally in Pakistani control, as the Afghans put it, and several Pashtun leaders in exile have said so, even in conversations with us. But I want to understand, sir, this would mean that the Pakistani Punjabi Muslims would then be fighting in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Would this also extend to Balochistan? Because I believe there is a link up that's happening even in Balochistan.
Yeah, first about Peshawar. Peshawar was the winter capital of the Amirs, when they were strong enough. And in fact, their territories, they claimed territories up to Attak, not only Peshawar but beyond. It was in the 1820s that Maharana Ranjit Singh, when he crossed the Indus, he took control of Peshawar and right up to Khyber Pass, the famous General Hari Singh Nalwa.
Yes.
And so British inherited it from the Sikhs and passed it on to Pakistan in 1947. No Afghan government has accepted the loss of Peshawar and these territories. So that is one issue. So they claim that. On the Baloch side, yes, the TTP seems to have had some sort of a tactical alliance with some Baloch groups. You see, the Baloch ideology and fighting is totally different than the Taliban. They are fighting for a separate country because of their political and historical grievances. The Taliban are a religious force who want to establish a religious their version of Sharia. So there is no real common meeting ground, but tactically, because the enemy of both is the Pakistan army, so there is some cooperation. And as I mentioned earlier, the TTP has set up a province or a wilaya in Kalat and Makran.
Yes.
So for the first time, they are now cooperating with some Baloch groups to target the Pakistan army. So this is actually a huge crisis for the Pakistan army, not only in the Pashtun areas, but even the Baloch area. The Baloch will get strengthened with the alliance with the TTP and the Pashtuns, because you see, the problem with the Baloch is that they have 44% of the land area of Pakistan, but they're only about 4% of the population. So they're not a critical mass. Whereas the Pashtuns are a critical mass and a well-defined territory of their own. And let's not forget that both sides of the border are the Pashtuns, speaking a common language, have a small culture, historical memories, and a code, Pashtun Wali.
Yes. And in this scenario, sir, given the situation, so Pakistan Army had carried out this Operation Zarb-e-Azb, where they used their heavy artillery, they brought in gunships and attack helicopters and used all sorts of weapons of war in Operation Zarb-e-Azb. They claimed the last of terrorists had been neutralized. It clearly indicates today, when TTP are back in Chitral, when TTP are making inroads, and as you have very rightly pointed out, that they are in Makran and in Kalat in Balochistan, and they're setting up offices in north and south of Punjab province and in Gilgit. Pakistan Army has trouble virtually on every front, virtually on every border, sir.
Yeah. You see, Zarbeas was effective. It did manage to decimate the TTP. The attacks blew down, their finances sort of dried up, and a lot of them sought shelter in Afghanistan. But after the Taliban victory in Kabul in 2021, instead of Taliban looking after Pakistan's security interests, what they have done is they have heightened the interest because of their kinship with the TTP. So the TTP has been reborn. And whereas earlier they could barely carry out any attack, in August, there were about 99 attacks carried out by the TTP, the largest since 2014, the largest number since 2014. So they have been rejuvenated. And yes, they have spread out all over now. And so for Pakistan Army, it's an extremely difficult situation. And also, let's not forget, the Pakistan Army today is involved in running the caretaker government. In fact, one of the headlines of a recent newspaper article was, Pak Army Chief to lead the fight for economic revival. And I thought to myself, if you're leading the fight for economic revival, who's going to lead the fight against the TTP? I mean, the economic revival is not really the Army's part, but the Army Chief seems to be paying much more attention to those kind of issues rather than what is his bread and butter, which is the security situation. So the security has really deteriorated.
Which is the point I was coming to. If the security situation is deteriorating day in and day out, their economy is in tailspin, politics in tailspin, given Imran Khan currently in Attak jail and the problems that he may pose to the establishment. What do you see happen in Pakistan in the months ahead, sir? I mean, you've written so extensively. You've studied Pakistan so well.
You see, I unfortunately do not see any leader who has the vision or the capability or the understanding to tackle these multifarious crises that are hitting Pakistan today. You see, we've always known since its creation that Pakistan has been in a crisis, one form or the other, and somehow or the other they managed to pull through. The US has bailed them out thrice in the past. China has come in with this, and the Saudis and the UAE. But this time the crisis is such multifarious and so big, and there's lack of vision and leadership in Pakistan. And they all seem to be politicking and jockeying for economic crumbs.
Okay.
And the Army Chief is concerned about the Special Facilitation Investment Council. All these kind of things are getting diverted. They're not focusing or not being able to focus, or perhaps they've lost the capability to focus on serious military issues.
And we'll be talking about this in greater detail in the days and weeks ahead, because this will have serious ramifications for this entire region. What does this also mean for that for the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor? All of that and much more in the days ahead. For joining me here on India Today, Mr. Tilak Deveshar, as always, many thanks, sir.